Hello and welcome to the 37th episode of this podcast that we like to call Talkin' Wrestling with Pondwater Dave. And as always, I'm Justin Davis, your host. As always, I'm joined by Pondwater Dave Miller, who's popping one open right now. And back from a 2-week hiatus, the First Lady of the Arn Anderson fan club, and all the Cool Kids fan clubs apparently as well, Miss Amy Vaughn live from Kentucky. How's it going?
It is going well. I do want to say, uh, thank you all out there for prayers and calls and text messages, just real brief. My mother in law went into the hospital because she wasn't really feeling super great. She was overall a healthy person, didn't take any medicine. She went in like June 27th. It was discovered she had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She wanted to go home with hospice. We were able to make that work July 4th. She came home with hospice on July 4th and she passed away the next day, July 5th, at home. And so it's been a real whirlwind, as you can imagine, going from um, not realizing, thinking someone might have pneumonia and, needed to be given antibiotics and stuff like that to basically having your whole life kind of flipped upside down. My husband has 2 brothers, and they've all just been really, putting their nose to the grindstone, getting it all done. And she had her mind literally up until she passed away. She was giving directions, letting them know things that she wanted, asking the hospice nurse questions when they admitted her on July 4th. And so I just really appreciate all the thoughts and prayers that you all have sent us. We appreciate that very, very much. And obviously, Pondwater and Justin, I appreciate all that you all have done. And I'm glad to be back with you all. I almost didn't know if I was going to make it. We've had storms here where I live um, basically for the last 24 hours. So we've had um, roads be washed away and trees down, but I made it. So I'm happy to be here with y'all.
Well,
We're happy you're back.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we thank Big Red Andrew for filling in for you. I mean,
yes, definitely.
You can be filled in for, but you can't be replaced.
And we're actually going to donate a cookie jar full of money from all the swear words for the last 2 weeks to charity of someone's choosing.
We could definitely do some real good work.
We can save the world after Big Red's been here.
Oh, I can imagine, especially if it's a topic that he's really passionate about.
Especially when someone is not letting him leave from work when he wanted to as well.
Oh, yes. I heard that. Bless.
Dave, what's going on in the world of Pondwater Dave Miller this week?
I'm on vacation, y'all. It's nice. I'm not worrying about potato chips this week at all.
Oh, nice.
Gonna head out in the morning and go to Texas and see my kids. Hang out with them a little bit, see the grandkids. It's gonna be nice.
That will be fun.
Did anyone get to check out this week's Dark Side of the Ring?
Oh, I did. Well, I watched parts of it. I ain't gonna lie. Sorry.
I just finished it a couple hours ago. Dave,
What'd you think?
You haven't got the chance to check it out, have you?
I haven't had a chance yet.
It's just a very controversial subject. We're talking about, of course, if you haven't watched it yet, this week's Dark Side of the Ring is on Abdullah the Butcher, and who apparently or accusationally gave Hannibal a blood disease by taking his blade that he bled with, Abdullah did, and then hitting Hannibal with it.
Well, then Abdullah's not all bad because Hannibal's a colossal piece of shit.
Well, that's very true, and Hannibal lets Abdullah know what he feels about him in this show as well.
Right, I've seen that online. I haven't watched all the episode, but a lot of, like you said, a lot of people were making comments about Hannibal and just maybe that he brought the show down. Like I said, I don't know what his comments and stuff were about it, so I don't know.
I'd rather watch puppies suffer than listen to anything that Hannibal has to say.
Now, which one is Hannibal?
He's the asshole that attacked that referee.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes. Okay.
And that is
That is
actually
what I was
that's part of
thinking,
this
yes.
episode as well. That's actually at the end.
And I'll apologize for offending a lot of people, but if you don't like what I'm saying about Hannibal, fuck you. That guy, he is a cancer on pro wrestling. He is a bull on the butt of humanity.
I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of surprised to see him on the show when I was watching. I'm like, oh, that's that dick face, ain't it? I'm like,
Right.
but then you do, in a way, kind of feel bad for him because he got hepatitis right at the time that he got signed by WWE, and he had his contract canceled immediately, pretty much after that.
Come see, come saw.
Really?
So it's kind of a sad story, and I can see where he probably went through a lot of hard times in his life after that, thinking that his dream is over because of this, and I think probably has a lot of resentment toward Abdullah about it. So
Well, if he wants sympathy, he can look for it in the dictionary. It's tucked somewhere between shit and syphilis.
I'm not a fan of his either, but it is an interesting look at quite a terrible situation that occurred. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. These dark sides of the rings are always very interesting to me. And this part of it that was interesting the most to me was seeing Abdullah's family, his brothers, his sisters, people that he grew up around. So it's pretty neat. And they all have a very high-pitched voice, just like Abdullah does.
He was intimidating as hell, though. I mean, when he came to World Class, his battles with Bruiser Brody were incredible. But I mean, Abdullah was, he's already, if you've ever been around him, you know that, he's disturbing looking. He can take a silver dollar and stick it almost all the way into his head because he's cut himself.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I agree. He definitely has the look of someone that you just don't really want to mess with. Even though he's sitting there, does he have his legs? Are they?
Yes.
Yeah, he does.
Kamala didn't have his legs. I apologize. I'm
Kamala lost one of them.
Someone lost them for dialysis, but okay.
Since today is National Hot Dog Day, I think he might be able to slide a wiener in his head crevice. Let's catch up on that thing.
Oh, I just thought the idea of Abdullah the Butcher getting flood-dunked just got all over me. You know what flood-dunked is, Amy?
No, I
when
can
it pops
only
him
imagine.
in the head, there's a sound it makes flood-dunked.
Well,
I knew it was some kind of leaning that way. I really do. I enjoy the Dark Side of the Rings. I think Evan Hussey and I forget the other dude's name. I think they're well done. I mean, I know they take on some very controversial topics sometimes, but that Adrian Adonis one last week, they have his family on there. They're talking about different things. You get to see a different side of them, and what they were maybe saying to their family versus what they were having. I just think it's a really cool personal look, especially for someone like him who he lost so long ago, and what could have been in a sense, and there was 2 other wrestlers that died. That was a terrible car accident that, took 3 lives, if I'm not mistaken. One of the twins, and then the promoter, right, and him.
I
Is that
think that
right?
they're trying to educate more.
Yes.
Used to be it was dark side. Let's get you. Let's just get you.
I think
and now they're trying not to burn everybody to the ground so bad, and actually tell the story and educate people.
Right.
I think they got so much heat from the Savage episode, they knew they had to kind of shift gears slightly.
Well, no, that was A&E, wasn't it?
Was that it? Oh no, I thought it was a Dark Side 2 they did with Randy. Maybe that was
the Dark Side. The plane ride from hell was pretty bad.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe I am thinking of A&E. I'm sorry.
Well, because I think it was a different They had different producers doing those. I think that's what you're thinking about.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about what we're going to do this week. Before we do, I want to go to something that got a little bit of. We had a Pondwater predicament last week. Dave, what's going on this week? What clouds are you barking at this week?
Man, I've got it in for the restaurant and fast food industry this week. I'm telling you, it's been bad. You pull up and you order, and here's the deal. I mean, you walk in, not getting what you ordered is unexcusable. I mean, it's just bad. And I mean, it's even bad when you do it on an app and they can't get it right. But I mean, when you get it right less than you, I mean, if they get it wrong more than they get it right, and I'm looking at you, McDonald's in Greenwood, Mississippi.
Oh, not the McDonald's in Greenwood.
Well, I mean, here's the first chapter of our story. We pull into the drive-thru, and it's the only thing open in Greenwood, Mississippi. It's after a wrestling show. We got our grandson, so we can't suck it up. We got to feed the kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going through the drive-thru, and it's taking forever. And I order, and I'm easy to order for. Give me chicken nuggets. Give me hot mustard. Only reason I eat chicken nuggets is hot mustard.
The hot mustard at McDonald's is slapping. I can
It is.
attest to that.
And then my wife wants a quarter pounder, no cheese, meat and mayo only, which blows their mind every time. And it's not just McDonald's. Everywhere she orders this basic freaking cheeseburger, hamburger.
I feel her pain.
They can't get it right. So we go through the line, we get our stuff. I open the bag, and I'm like, damn it, they gave me honey mustard. But you know what? I can eat honey mustard.
We can deal with that. That's a minor.
I'm going to eat honey mustard. Turns out honey mustard's not so bad. It's not hot mustard, but it's not going to ruin my night.
Right.
The kid's eating. I'm eating. Tep opens her burger. Damn it, they got cheese on it. And we whip around the building. So now we're waiting in line again. And she's pissed. I don't blame her. And it's also, we've been at a wrestling show with no air conditioning in a rodeo arena, and it was hot. So, anyway, we get back up there. She says, hey, I didn't order it with cheese. It's got cheese on it. They apologize. They come back. They hand her a burger. We pull forward. She opens it. There's no cheese on it, but everything else is on it. And she just throws the damn burger at this point. And she's pissed, and anyway, and that's where I'm going to stop the story because I won't fight. But so, I mean, pretty much night's ruined at this point. Thank you, McDonald's in Greenwood.
Well,
so the other morning,
uh-oh.
El Dorado, Arkansas, we go by McDonald's. I want a number 2, but I don't need a drink because I've got a Monster, right? Number 2 is Egg McMuffin, hash brown. I said, I don't need the drink. She goes, but do you want the hash browns? Yes, I want the hash browns. We get to the window. She hands to me. There's no hash browns. I ask, you didn't order a hash brown. So rather than going off, I'm good. I chilled. I ate the McMuffin. Not going to McDonald's again. Screw McDonald's. I've had it. So then we went, goodness. We went to a pizza place, and I want the pizza with everything on it. I will eat anything. You can name foods, and I'll eat them. It's a very short list of the things I won't eat, but on the top of that list of things I won't eat are olives. Now I'm ordering this deluxe pizza with everything, and normally I have to say hold the olives. But the olives are not listed on this pizza.
Oh, this is false advertisement.
But I asked the server, hey, just to be clear, there's no olives on this pizza, correct? And she looks at it, and now I feel stupid because she's reading the same thing I did. And she says, no olives. So anyway, we get the pizza. Well, let me take that back. They burned the pizzas. They burned the first batch. And she comes back and tells us, hey, we burnt your pizzas. We're doing them more. Sorry about that. No big deal. And it's getting close to closing time. Then they come back and say, hey, are you going to take these to go? So.
Was this a chain or like a mom and pop?
This is a mom and pop.
Okay.
I'll give them a shout out. Main Street Pizza. If they're gonna screw your pizza up, Main Street Pizza in El Dorado is a good place to go to get your pizza. Because even if they screwed it up, it's pretty good. And I don't like olives. And I'll be honest, I was halfway through it before I'm like, there's fucking olives in this thing. But I'm just like, why can't we get it right? So now, here's the deal. If we ever go to McDonald's again, I'm going to pull up and I'm going to say, they're going to say, welcome to McDonald's. Are you using the app? And I'm like, no, I'm not using the app. Go ahead and order. I'm going to go, I would like a 20-piece nugget with hot mustard, not honey mustard, hot mustard. I'm going to come in hot on hot mustard. That's where we're going to go first. And then I'm going to say, I want a 1/4 pounder with no cheese. No cheese. That means minus cheese. Meat and mayo only. If this 1/4 pounder has anything other than meat and mayo, I'm going to reach over into the passenger seat. I'm going to lift my wife's skirt. I'm going to take the garters off her stockings and build me a slingshot. And I'm going to break every window out of this son of a bitch. If I see anything other than meat and mayo on my wife's burger, do you understand it, Ronald fucking McDonald? And that's how I'm going to order going forward.
You know what
I'm probably going to get it with extra spit, but who gives a shit?
What I like about the story is Pondwater Dave uses his stature in every which way. He's the true David and Goliath. His weapon of choice is a damn slingshot.
Anyway, it's just, I mean, y'all want $15 an hour. Get this shit right. I can't wait till a computer takes your job.
I know.
Jesus.
I
jump
tell
up
you what,
Christ.
my McDonald's in Murray, pretty stellar. Just saying.
Well,
Yeah, but even a broken
Dave,
clock's right twice a day.
I think Dave is expressing something we've all dealt with, which is
definitely.
But I think the problem here and why Dave has a legitimate gripe is that it happened to him like 3 times in a row. It's usually like it'll happen like once every couple months. They'll forget something in your bag. They'll put something on there they're not supposed to.
All right, well, I'm just saying that's it. I'm got a little angst. Can we go out to eat? And I mean, I'll eat anything my wife won't. And when she's not happy, I'm not happy.
I had kids waiting on me to teach them because I was late getting back because I had to do double lunch duty. I had like 10 minutes before my class started. I run down the street to the Wendy's. They get my stuff. Everything's cool. I go in and open it. It's like not even the sandwich that I ordered. I ordered a chicken sandwich, some kind of burger. So now I have to go through and they're like, then I had to stand there and wait. And my kids are like, where was you at? I'm like, I had to go through the drive-through like twice. So yeah, sometimes they hit you with that in very inopportune times and situations.
So are you all always go back, or do you just say, you know what? I screw it. I'll eat the chicken sandwich. I don't really want the burger or whatever.
Well,
or do you go back all the time?
I wouldn't go back all the time. If it's something I could eat, like Dave, the honey mustard, I'm eating that. That's an easy fix. But I don't like mayonnaise. I don't like tomato and onion, and they had all that on there, so I couldn't even have ate it anyways. So. All right, enough about us bitching about fast food. We have
I got a better chance of going to Hannibal's house for dinner than going back to McDonald's.
Ooh. Ooh.
Oh.
Well, we do have a show to do. And today,
hang on. Let me now she done called me out. There's an old joke. I'm going to tell this old joke, and it's Red Fox. And Red Fox talks about this guy that's in prison. He goes before the parole board, and parole board says, "Hey, what are you going to do if we let you out this year?" He goes, "I'm going to go outside and we'll knock every window out of this place." So they lock him back up for another year. Then he comes back the next year and they go, "If we let you out today, what are you going to do?" He goes, "I'm going to go outside. I'm going to find some rocks. I'm going to knock every window out of this place." So after 5 years of this, he finally comes in. They go, "If we let you out this year, what are you going to do?" He goes, "Well, I'm going to go find me a job. I'm going to find me a good job. And I'm going to save some money. And I'm going to buy me a nice car, maybe a Cadillac. And I'm going to find me a nice woman and try to settle down. And we're going to get in that car and we're going to drive. You know, we're going to drive. We're going to talk and listen to music and laugh. And we're going to drive out in the country. And then we're going to pull out in front of this place. And I'm going to reach up under her skirt and get the garter off her stockings, make a slingshot, and knock every window out of this place." And that's where I got that. I mean, the garter up under there, because I mean, she's not Amish. I mean, she's not wearing garters, but you know.
Well, today's episode is the kind of subtitle of this episode is Bill Watts UWF. We're talking about the first show that they had on TV with their new name, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of a cool show to check out, and it is kind of a fun show, and I'm excited to go over it. Before we do, Miss Amy Vaughn has some trivia for us. I'm assuming it's about some UWF.
It is. All right, this is a fill in the blank. What was the wrestling territory known as before the name change to Universal Wrestling Federation?
Mid South, Continental Mid South, something like that.
It was Mid-South.
It
Yeah.
was Mid South. Very good. Now, who did Bill Watts buy the territory from in 1979? Who did Bill Watts buy Mid South from in 1979?
9.
JR talks about him all the time.
The blind guy.
Leroy
Yes.
McGurk.
Leroy McGurk. Very good. Who is the dad of Mike McGurk, the announcer for WWE, whatever.
Yep.
He became
Well,
blinded.
DiBiase almost got killed over Mike McGurk because Leroy was going to shoot him even though he was blind.
Yes, exactly. He was permanently blinded after a car accident on February 7th, 1950. So you did mention Mike McGurk had a thing for Ted DiBiase, but did you know she has been married to 2 wrestlers?
I did not know that.
This is a bonus question. Can you name one of them?
Oh, God. No.
I was surprised.
I haven't got a clue.
The first one is B. Brian Blair of the Killer Bees.
Well,
she was married to him.
Mike McGurk got stoned.
And the second was more of a journeyman, Doug Summers. So
Doug Summers, former AWA Tag Team Champion.
Yes. So in 1979, Bill Watts changed the name of the territory to Mid-South Wrestling Association. Do you know what the territory's name was under Leroy McGurk? And I have multiple choice for you.
Okay.
Was it called Tri-State NWA, Quad State NWA, Midwest Wrestling Association, or Louisiana NWA Mid-South Wrestling Association?
I'll go D.
It's Tri-State.
It is Tri-State.
Skandar Akbar was the Tri-State Heavyweight Champion. It's a cool belt. It really was. It's just a perfectly round main plate. That's got the Tri-State on it. It's really neat. That's why I know that.
No, so that's kind of a cool little thing about that little area. It's gone through several name changes. So the commentators for this inaugural show is at least one face you probably recognize, which was good old JR. But do you know the name of the second commentator? And this is also multiple choice.
Well, we're fixing to find out if Justin reads the notes.
Well, I actually watched the show too, so I heard his name.
Okay, so I don't even have to give you multiple choice. What is his name?
I forget his first name. Something Watts.
It's Joel Watts.
Joel Watts, that's right.
Joel Watts, yes.
Joel Watts, he's responsible for a lot of the music videos that you'll see on Mid-South and UWF television.
I was going to say, he was a producer along with
really good
commentary. So there was a press conference to announce the first ever Jim Crockett Sr. Memorial Cup Tag Team Championship Tournament. Where was it held? Where was the tournament held? Now that I read that, I can see where that could be confusing. Not the press conference, but where was the tournament being held?
It's the New Orleans Superdome. Justin had it right.
Yeah, Superdome.
It's the New Orleans. I don't like it when y'all read notes.
I was there.
I didn't even read. I
went to
Oh,
it.
that's right. You did go.
And I watched this show which covered it was going to be in the Superdome.
There's no fun. All right, audience. Uh, I'm not telling y'all.
Well,
get the chance for
we'll lay out and give the audience a chance on the next one
it. Okay.
because the audience is killing it. Andrew Hermes, Mike Bober, Allison Faye,
I know.
Terry Weaver.
They're all so
Who else we got
good.
out there tonight?
Brad's
Efren.
Brad Stanton was on there earlier, I saw. What wrestling organization compiled the seeding of the teams in the tournament?
I
Okay.
know this too.
Let's go to the chat for this one.
Was it the NWA? Was it the Wrestling Observer? Was it PWI? Or was it Jim Crockett Promotions? What wrestling organization compiled the seedings of the teams in the tournament?
Bober guessed JCP. He's wrong.
Well, he's from Pittsburgh. He's always wrong.
Andrew guessed JCP also. Terry,
was,
everybody's guessing JCP. It was actually PWI.
Yeah, here's what I think they needed. They said, we need a nerd that no one will question, like he knows what he's talking about. Bring him in. Oh, there's Bill Apter.
But I'm going to ask Bill. I ought to text Bill right now and ask him, did Watts and Crockett give him the top 10 seeds, or did PWI really seed them?
I know when I watched it today, Dave, I thought, man, I wish that he was still doing the show with Dave.
I can text him. I can ask Bill. I'm going to find out because those were worked, especially. I mean, if PWI would have done it, I don't think the World Tag Team Champions would have been ranked 3.
Right.
And also, if PWI, I mean, even number 10 was Doc and DiBiase. And they weren't and they were the Mid-South Tag Team Champions, but number 9 was the Sheepherders. So
that is literally my question number 8. You just ruined.
Oh, sorry. I'm just saying there's so much goofy with the top 10 ratings, and I remember that at the time.
Right. But I definitely think the Road Warriors should have been number 1. Like I don't think
anyone would question that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying if PWI would have ranked them, they would not have put the NWA Tag Team Champions ahead of the Road. I mean, they would have put the NWA Tag Team Champions first over the Road Warriors.
Right.
Text him. Ask him.
Okay, I'll do it right now.
Text that guy from that damn McDonald's, too, and tell him to get his shit together.
No kidding. But I did love it whenever we were watching it. And then here comes Bill Apter. That was great.
I don't want heat with Timmy Sear Angel, okay? I mean, I'm just talking about, they didn't do it personally. I mean, it is what it is.
Like I said, my McDonald's in Murray, pretty spot on. So,
hey, I'm going to tell you, I didn't get any hash browns, but my Egg McMuffin the other day was delightful. I mean, they killed the Egg McMuffin. It was great. But I wanted the freaking hash browns.
Oh, God.
That is kind of fun. I mean,
and I asked them,
like you said,
and they go, do you want to order some hash browns? No, give me some fucking hash browns. And that's what made me mad is because they screwed it up. They should just hand me a package of hash browns.
I wish McDonald's would bring back the chicken selects. That was my banger as a kid. The little chicken tenders they had there for a while. Then they got rid of them. Never brought them back. Sad face.
They don't even have salads anymore. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
who's going to McDonald's looking for a salad?
Well, sometimes I do.
Soccer mom, Amy.
God almighty.
I mean,
I mean, if you get people that get salads at McDonald's hate themselves.
Oh.
Terry brought up the steak, egg, and cheese bagel, which used to be my favorite thing on their menu, Terry, and they brought it back recently, and I was all excited, and something about it just didn't taste the same. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't 14 and it just didn't taste the same anymore, but I didn't like it as much. All right, what's our next question, Amy?
Oh, I don't know. No. On the show, okay, talk a little bit about the show. We saw after the contract signing, which one of Dick Slater's title was listed on the contract and to be defended by Buzz Sawyer against Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So I'm getting a little bit into the
TV title. The TV title.
That is incorrect.
Hang on.
That's what Dick Slater thought.
Oh, but it was the North American title or whatever they call that.
Right, which is
Okay,
kind of their heavyweight. That's their world, kind of their big championship.
I'm not going to
correct?
explain it because it's part of the episode, but yes.
Yes.
We'll get up under the hood on that, on what happened there.
All right. So then the teams in the Mid-South tag team title match were the Sheepherders and Ted DiBiase and Dr. Death Steve Williams. Both are in the top 10 seeds for the Crockett Cup. DiBiase and Williams were seeded number 10.
Let's see if Justin remembers what I just said.
What seed was the Sheepherders?
I don't.
I have multiple choice if you want it.
Go ahead.
Well,
I want to see if he gets it. Oh, Bober.
I was going to say 9.
Lying son of a bitch.
No, that was my because I think I remember it from the show watching it today. I was going to say 9.
You are correct. It was 9. And just a little FYI about the tournament. So, like I said earlier, the number 1 seed were the Road Warriors, who did end up going on and winning. Spoiler, sorry. Both of the above teams, so both the Sheepherders and Williams team, because Ted DiBiase got injured before the tournament and was replaced by Terry Taylor. So it was Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and Terry Taylor. Both of them made to the quarterfinals. So, I mean, they did go pretty far in the tournament.
Hey, I'm going to tell you, I saw a lot of wrestling that day, and I saw a lot of wrestling hungover. I'm not even going to lie.
It wouldn't be the last either.
Is that the one where you took Ike?
Yes.
Okay.
Bourbon Street. My first trip down Bourbon Street. I walked down and crawled back. But
oh God.
But I'm going to tell you, that the match between Terry Taylor and Dr. Death against the Koloffs, when there was a test of strength between Dr. Death and Nikita, that was one of the most impressive tests of strength that I can ever remember seeing. I mean, that was 1986, and it's still clear in my head. I saw so much that night, so there's only a few things that really stand out in my head about the whole Crockett Cup. But watching, and I wish I could find the pictures because I did get a pretty good picture of them locked up in a test of strength. But Dr. Death, up to that point, how many people do you think in Crockett were matching up well with Nikita Koloff?
Right.
I mean, he was built like a brick shithouse.
I bet that was pretty. I mean, I think the tournament in itself, now granted, obviously they still have the Crockett Cup, being able to see teams like that, like you said, it was kind of an all day, you had your morning, the afternoon, like it was an all day thing. And the amount of wrestling and different tag teams that were wrestling each other, I bet that was quite
and the
fun
first one,
for a fan.
The first one was a true invitational. I mean, like I said, you had Rick Martel and Dino Bravo from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
You had Giant Baba and Tiger Mask from Japan.
Yep.
I mean, there was people there that weren't. I mean, there was promotions. I'm going to tell you, World Class not having anybody there kind of stands out to me. I don't know if there was some hard feelings since I believe Ken Mantell was working for UWF at the time, and he left World Class as the booker to go do that. There may have been some hard feelings, and Fritz wouldn't let anybody. But how cool would it have been to have, Kevin and Kerry Von Erich there?
Right.
It
does kind of seem like somebody was.
World Class
like
was conspicuous by their absence.
Definitely. In that group that we saw.
Well, also Crockett was involved, and at this time, by 86, World Class was leaving. So, oh my God. Why does she hate me? Why does she hate me when I worship her? I put her on a pedestal.
We're learning about some escapades that may or may not have happened on Bourbon Street that everyone should see, and we may see those one day here on the show. You never know.
Bourbon Street through the ages, I guess. Check it out.
It depends on how mad Dave makes.
I'm not ashamed. I'm really not ashamed of it. It's really hilarious. If you don't know what I'm talking about, over in the chat, the producer of this show, my beloved wife, said there's a great video of drunk Pondwater checking out women on Bourbon Street that everyone should see. We were dating at the time, and the thing is that if you're drinking, my lovely wife will videotape you and embarrass you at a later date. Anyway, It's on a different YouTube channel than this one. It's on you can look up Ref Super Dave PWD on YouTube, and it'll be on that channel.
I wish she would have been at Top Guy Weekend so she could have recorded us carrying you to your bed. That would have been fantastic.
If she'd have been a Top Guy Weekend, that wouldn't have happened. Somebody would have toted an ass kicking too. Oh. So it's her fault. Blame it on her.
All right. I mean, you do what you want to do. I'm not getting on that boat with you. Let's talk about this UWF. Thank you, Amy. Are we done on that?
We got
No, I have two more questions real quick. No, that's all right.
I saw number 10. I was thinking that was question number 10, but I wasn't reading the top. It said question number 8. Go ahead.
Who did Bill Watts sell the UWF to on April 9th, 1987? And you've got your choices right there.
Oh, he sold it to Jim Crockett Promotions. Yes.
I'm so proud of you, Justin.
Yes, he did. Very good. And they did continue on some storylines, and then they ended up doing like title unifications.
Yeah.
We should talk on another episode about how badly Jim Crockett Promotions botched incorporating UWF into their programming.
I think
you know what? This was the first time that a promotion botched a invasion angle that they could have made really good.
Yeah, but it was even worse with UWF because there was some really talented wrestlers in UWF.
Yeah,
definitely, and especially during this time, it would have been better. I mean, like I said, this was full-fledged fight with WWF. You know, I mean, to hang on to the talents that they had, probably could have been done better. All right, this is like.
Let me answer, Bober. Let's put him up on the screen here.
Oh my.
Yeah, she was there, and she was pissed.
Yes.
I mean, I wasn't. I thought I can't take chop. Let me tell you something. If you're going to take a chop, I've taken lots of chops, and McChesney chops just. I mean, his chops are. I mean, it's insane. The fact that I took 2 of them, I think, in hindsight, was pretty impressive. If you want to be impressed with taking chops, there's nothing pleasurable about taking chops. But McChesney hits them just as hard as anybody that I've ever been chopped by, and I've been chopped by some heavy hitters. Yes, I'll agree with her on that.
All right,
but it made for good content. I got quite a few views on my TikTok over that one.
Number 10 is my favorite question. It's short answer. Why is there history for 2 Universal Wrestling Federation organizations? One under Bill Watts and one under Herb Abrams.
Because Herb Abrams started another company with the same name.
Yeah. Guess. And I believe Watts' wife probably got the UWF mark in the divorce settlement, and Herb Abrams got away with it because of that. If I'm just guessing, that might be a question for gimmick attorney. I don't know why Herb Abrams was able to get away with it, but
well, I'm getting ready to tell you. And yes, Terry,
I cannot wait to hear why.
It is an essay question. It is because Bill Watts did not know the gimmick attorney Mike Dawkins and never registered the name Universal Wrestling Federation with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, which allowed Herb Abrams to use it in the 1990s. So he should have used the gimmick attorney.
Terry, you got to remember there's a teacher on this show, and essay questions always come last. We know that.
But I thought that was kind of cool. So, you know, that's why.
That was some fun questions. Thank you. This is a fun kind of time period that is not talked about a lot, which is the creation of the UWF, which is the new name under, as we talked about, Mid-South before that. And that's what we're talking about today, is the first show that they did under this name, UWF. Dave, what did UWF stand for?
Universal Wrestling Federation. They went big. I don't know what the exact thinking that Watts had behind changing the name of Mid-South, but he went on a bigger platform. I guess Universal. Well, now that I've said it out loud, the World Wrestling Federation. Well, what's bigger than the world? The Universal Wrestling Federation.
And I'm sorry. I was just going to say, from this book, Death of the Territories, written by Tim Hornbaker, fabulous book. You are right. What you were saying, Dave, is that it was to be more of a, I don't want to say generic, but more of a generic, all-encompassing wrestling versus territorial. So because they were all looking at this time, they were all looking for TV. That was big between the acquisitions that McMahon was doing all over the United States, going into territories like St. Louis, Portland, Texas, Georgia, getting footholds in all these different places. TV was really huge. And so you start seeing them being on USA, TBS, those kind of things. So to make it more appealing, that was the word I was trying to think of. They all, Bill Watts looked for a more less territorial name and more broader name.
Well, I'm going to tell you that Mid-South Wrestling was a jam-packed hour. Even their enhancement matches.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was an hour of enhancement matches. They give you something towards the end with TV time remaining and normally wouldn't give you a finish. But what I'm saying is that it was a very, very, I mean, they lined up it was an infomercial for the selling tickets to the arenas. And the Mid-South program was very entertaining, very. And, but when you watch this, at the beginning of the UWF, it was just the package that they showed during the introductions was a lot of hard-hitting action that really got you excited to watch this wrestling program.
Mm-hmm.
They had some huge stars. So, Mark Buffalo, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight, Mark. Sorry, late to the party. As someone who grew up in Arkansas, I hated the switch. So I don't remember how I felt about it. Mid-South changing their name to UWF.
I think Mark would be like a lot of fans that grew up around there. Like they have pride in the Mid-South name because it expresses the area.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like kind of a generic.
I can see. Yeah. Because I didn't like when World Class changed, left the NWA, became the World Class Wrestling Association. And they did use WCWA as far back as 81. But I mean, we were always World Class Championship Wrestling. So when they changed and went bigger like that, I wasn't real crazy about it either. So I can see where Mark's coming from on that. But that being said, they had some heavy hitters on their programming. I mean, they started out, even the beginning of the episode is last week on Mid-South Wrestling. And they showed Buzz Sawyer going berserk. Buzz Sawyer was going berserk. He beat up some referees. He had a dog collar, and him and Hacksaw were having dog collar matches around the horn. Mm-hmm. So that makes sense why he had a dog collar chain, and he started beating Hacksaw. And you'll see Hacksaw in this episode if you watch it. He has the ribs taped. I mean, he's taped all the way around from the chain. So
you're right. That is quite the way to. I mean, like as soon as you hit play, you're kind of taken aback because
there's no intro at all. It's just like, man, here it is.
Like,
here it is.
Yeah.
Last week, this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've got, and it said Bill Watts, Universal Wrestling Federation. I mean, so it was in the intro, and then we come in and there's good old JR with Jim Ross. We wasn't JR back then. He was Jim Ross with Joel Watts, and they had on their tuxedos and had their hair fixed like they like it, and we're ready for a jam-packed hour of wrestling action. And let me tell you what was going on in the territory at this time leading up, just to give you some context. Got to get them readers on, y'all.
It's Sally Jesse Raphael.
Exactly.
Out of everybody that wears readers, you couldn't come up with anything any better than Sally Jesse Raphael.
Well, hers were red too. That's all I'm saying.
That's true. I mean, it is hard when it's red like that.
Now I done messed up my headphones.
Oh,
Anyway, from March 14th at the Sam Houston Coliseum.
I love it when Dave gets yelled at down the hallway during the show.
No
It's
kidding.
always the best part.
You can't get that on anybody else's podcast.
Yeah, you don't hear Megan cracking in on or Megan
It's
cracking in
Megan.
on Conrad. Megan cracking in on Conrad.
No,
so.
you don't. Anyway, from the Sam Houston Coliseum on March 14th, which was 2 days before this was recorded, Tracy Smothers defeats Gustavo Mendoza. Brett Sawyer, that's Buzz's little brother, defeats Sean O'Reilly. The Blade Runners, Blade Runner Flash and Blade Runner Rock, with Eddie Gilbert.
ooh, which one was which? I didn't read.
Sting was Flash,
Sting was Flash, yeah.
and the Ultimate Warrior was Rock.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
They defeated David Peterson and Perry Jackson.
Gotcha.
And I believe Perry Jackson is Action Jackson that still wrestles in Texas.
The one that was at the GCW show?
He wasn't
Action Mike?
No,
Jackson?
not Action Mike
Oh.
Jackson.
Okay.
The other Action Jackson.
The other one. Okay.
Action
The
Jackson
Action
eats
Jacksons
more-
of Texas.
Action Jackson eats more than Mike Jackson.
Okay. Okay.
Korchenko with Eddie Gilbert defeated Ricky Gibson. That's Robert's brother.
Mhm.
The Sheepherders, Butch and Luke Williams, defeated Chavo and Hector Guerrero. That's Chavo Classic, not Chavo Jr.
Yeah, I
Hector
was glad to
Guerrero
see
later
Chavo.
becomes Lasertron in the NWA.
The last match on this show, we see Chavo Classic, and I was pumped to see that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the dog collar match between Jim Duggan and Buzz Sawyer was what I mentioned, and then you even saw that at the top of the show. The Mid-South North American title, Terry Taylor defeats Dick Slater by disqualification. And then in the Mid-South Tag Team Championship, Steve Williams and Ted DiBiase defeated Dick Murdoch and the Masked Superstar. So that's what was going on in the area in at the Sam Houston Coliseum. So that's what we had leading up to this show. Just to give y'all a little context of what was going on. And we see the dog collar. Again, I mentioned it at the top of the show. So we're going to start Mid-South. The show intro is great. And then there's a lot of talking, but it's Jim Ross, so who cares, right? And then we go to the press conference. The press conference for the first Jim Crockett Sr. Memorial Cup. Basically what they're doing, they're announcing the Super Bowl. They cut to a quick message from Jim Crockett's widow. And then she even mentioned that she'd like to have the second one in Charlotte.
I thought that was hilarious that they were like pumping it up that it's in the Superdome, and then at the end she's like, "And by the way, it'd be nice if it's in Charlotte."
But it was never in Charlotte. And you know she was salty about it.
And weren't they doing the
Well, we've come to learn. We've come to learn from JR that Watts was kind of, throwing a fit. So it didn't go to Charlotte. To get them to work with them, it had to go to New Orleans. So I think Francis was, I don't know if her name was Francis. I don't remember what his widow. Francis was the daughter.
Yeah, that
anyway,
was
I mean, I think she was salty, and with context, it seemed like she was salty, and it never went to Charlotte.
When I was watching it, that's what I got off of that comment.
Yeah.
Like, and she said it in a nice old lady, sweet way. Like, I would love to see it come back to Charlotte, but that
it was definitely Bill Watts, bless his heart.
That just told me that she's pissed that it's not in Charlotte.
And also, I want to point out to everybody that's listening that especially some of you younger guys that have a really negative opinion about Bill Watts. But Bill Watts in 1986 probably could have been the governor of Louisiana. Bill Watts was over. He was, he was in charge. Bill Watts was just like Dusty Rhodes, was just like Fritz von Erich. I mean, they knew that he was in charge there, and I mean, if he showed up, somebody was going. Bill Watts wasn't getting his ass whooped. I mean, it just wasn't happening. Right. So, and Bill Watts was over with the people. And
we see it.
And am I wrong, Mark Buffalo? Bill Watts he wasn't. Nope, they didn't hate Bill Watts, and that
Do you
came
I was
think?
much
gonna say
I was
later.
going to say, do you think that just came later with everything you hear from WC? When he was in charge, I
yeah.
guess, of
Anybody
WCW.
anybody under the age of 25 that hates Bill Watts it's because what they're supposed to do. They don't know.
Yeah.
I
They,
mean,
they just got the memo that we're supposed to hate him.
you
And
see it in this show, I think, and we'll talk about it here soon, but he comes out and kind of tricks Dick Slater out of the title or whatever.
oh
And you,
yeah,
and you can tell how over he is with the fans. And it's almost like the first Mr. McMahon character, but as a baby face. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
oh yeah, and I mean it was such a play on words. It was brilliant.
You
Um,
could see
but, but
Gorilla Monsoon doing something like that.
and we're
Like you said,
and we're back
someone
to
very loved.
but back
Sorry.
to the press conference. The Superdome was announced, and then Bob Johnson was the VP of the Superdome, and they put that in there. And he actually talked about what happens at the Superdome, what kind of events they host there, and they're genuinely excited about having this premier wrestling event. And I thought that led a little credibility to this press conference
I
I
like
because
how
I
he
think.
kind of I
Go
that
think
ahead,
at
shows
the
you
Justin.
how
time,
old this show is. He's like, we got a Super Bowl coming up in 4 years in 1990.
Yeah, I
yeah,
know. I did notice that. Wasn't that funny? I love this whole press conference, like everything about it, like the how old school, everybody sitting around the table. You got all the you got people are coming up to the podium, like that. Just again, they had the vice president of the Superdome talking about how excited they are, like everything about it just made it huge. Bill Apter being there and doing the announcement of the picking of the teams, and this is how they did it, and just
and this
I
Rob
loved it.
Garner Rob Garner and Bill Apter did that segment, and that Rob Garner for some reason, man, there's something about him that just struck me as awful familiar, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I loved how they brought Bill up, and
Hmm.
Bill announces the top 10. He's number one is the Road Warriors. Number two, America's team, Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA. Number three, the Midnight Express, the NWA World Tag Team Champions. Number four, Ric Flair, the World Heavyweight Champion, with Arn Anderson, the Four Horsemen.
Woohoo! Sorry,
Um,
Arn got named, so I just had to.
Rick Martel and Dino Bravo from Canada. Tiger Mask and Giant Baba from Japan. The Koloffs. Um, the Sheepherders.
Coming in at number 9.
And then number 10, Dr. Death, the Mid South Tag Team Champions. Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and Ted DiBiase. So I kind of, and I think even back then when I first saw this the first time, the seedings kind of might have stood out to me as being, I didn't understand it, but
A little bit.
almost immediately after announcing the top 10, you have Bill Watts stand up, and Bill Watts starts talking about what a great deal it is to have the Crockett Cup. We bid for it, and we got it here in New Orleans. And it's always been my dream to have a NWA world title change
Mm-hmm.
in the Superdome. I mean, that's what he leads with. I mean, it's almost like we know that if Dusty Rhodes gets Ric Flair in the Superdome, that Flair's not leaving with the title.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he's almost promising a title change.
Yeah.
Which is incredibly, I mean, think about it from a promotional deal. I mean, you always had your guy, you wanted your guy was good. Maybe this is the time they're going to get Flair, but I mean, this is what he's leading with. It's not like we have a title match. It's like I have a dream that we're going to have a title change in the New Orleans Superdome.
Well, isn't that in a way teasing it to sell more tickets, just to make sure you sell it? Right. And going back to what we were talking about the Superdome just a minute ago, at this time, the Superdome is probably the stadium in the United States. There's not a bigger, better stadium, more new at the time. Like the Superdome took over the Astrodome, right? Because the Astrodome was the big thing, and then they built the Superdome. And so at this time, the Superdome is like the most recognizable American stadium in the world.
It's almost one of the wonders of the world at this point.
Yeah. And so it's a huge deal to have a huge show at the Superdome. I don't care who you are.
I remember walking in that place and could not believe the magnitude of it.
And you're also putting it on the level of the Super Bowl. Like you're talking, like you said, Justin, you're talking about how these events happen in this building and your event is happening there too. So that automatically elevates it as the premier event. This is after WrestleMania, right? That happened at
No,
Madison.
WrestleMania. Well, yeah, WrestleMania
Yeah.
just happened. Yes.
It
Yeah,
just
it just
Yeah.
happened. So I like how they, like you said, Justin, like this was the place to be, and they elevate it more by saying, like, premier events happen here. The Super Bowl's happening here. You know, we just had one. We're having another one, and we're
Mhm.
also going to have your event. I think that's just kind of the same. You know, like I said,
Years
elevating it.
later, it would become more famous for saving a lot of people from a hurricane. So
But-
this building did a lot of things over its
Well,
lifetime.
what cracked me up about this so much though is that that Watts announces that. Then here comes Bill, but he DiBiase back up and goes, "Hey, Dusty's going to be replaced by by Ronnie Garvin, but we're not changing the seatings, and we're going to slide Tully Blanchard in for Rick."
Well, but you know what though?
But the seating stay the same.
The seating stays the same. But I did like how he said Magnum has chosen. Like he says, Magnum chose Ronnie Garvin for his toughness or whatever, and Arn has decided to bring up Tully. Like so, and again, how could they have done it so fast or whatever? But I think that was kind of, you know, like again, it's very interact, like what you would think would really happen. Like if you had to be sub.
Oh, and
Was
they
this
got
the
jobs in the
beginning
first round.
Was
Well,
this
second
like the
round, they got a
beginning of
bye.
Arn and Tully being together, or had they worked a lot together before this?
No, this would have probably been the beginning.
I think
That's what I was
so.
thinking. This is probably the start of it.
Yeah, this may have been one of the first times that they threw that combination together. And Andrew's right. You know, but they lost they got a first round bye, but they lost. They lost the first match.
Right. And then, like I said, the 9 and 10 seeds ended up in the quarterfinals. So, I mean, you know, just because you're seated in the bottom doesn't mean that, you know, you don't go further. So, I don't know. A little underdogs.
Hey, and I'm going to tell you, they actually did a little matchmaking with the Sheepherders and the Fantastics in that tournament. They made it, I don't remember if it was the daytime session, but they made it a barbed wire match.
I think it was night, because wasn't that a double count? They made it a double disqualification or a count out. Something happened because nobody won those matches.
Yeah, and
so
they made it, but they went ahead and made, since the Sheepherders and the Fantastics were in it so hot and heavy by that point.
Right. They
made it a barbed wire match. And
I think it might have been
as an added attraction to the part of the tournament. So it was pretty neat. Well, you got a link, Andrew. You know how to get in here.
What?
Anyway, but no, I just thought you knew that Bill Watts didn't just make that shit up when he came to the podium. So you knew that y'all were going to go with Flair and Dusty for the title. So why didn't we just change it?
Bill after was back up to the podium in a half a second. He's like, here's who's subbing.
I just don't get it.
Adam said he would take Ronnie Garvin. Yeah, I agree. It was kind of like, well, that was quick.
And Ronnie Garvin would have probably been he was kind of hanging with Dusty and so it kind of made sense. And they made it all the way, you know, it was them and the Road Warriors for the final. And we'll cover the Crockett Cup at another time because it was it was a pretty impressive tag team tournament.
I think I've only watched that show once, so that would be a good thing to go back and watch again for sure.
We should ask David, because that's what he wants us to call us, even though I call him Mr. Crockett. We should ask him to come on with us.
We could.
That would be good.
I think so.
What came up next here, Dave, on our card?
Next, so now we're starting the show. You know, first we're having like a sit down with Dick Slater, because Dick Slater he destroyed the Mid-South television title because he didn't like it. Also, they told him he was North American champion. He couldn't be the TV champion too. And he said, well, hold my beer and watch me. So he wins a TV championship, and he recognizes that it's not a title fitting for a champion. This is what the Mid-South TV title was. It was a medal.
Oh.
That's pretty cool, though.
It was different.
It's a cool looking medal, really. I like it.
But Mark Buffalo, lifelong Mid-South fan, thought the medal was stupid. But
I think it's cool because it'd be good to hit someone with. You just
well, it
whack
was
them
different.
with it.
And it was different, and it ended up in the river. Dick Slater threw it over the bridge into the river. So he had to have another television title made. And because he couldn't be both champions, he decided, I'm going to give this new championship belt to Buzz Sawyer. Buzz Sawyer is going to be defending the TV belt. And this is what they came up with.
You got to tell us who's all signed it. I saw a bunch of autographs on the back of it. You'll have to tell us who's all on there.
So I'm going to stand up and show y'all. This is what they came up with as a replacement. And Dick Slater says he put the new name, since it's the Universal Wrestling Federation. He went ahead and had the new name put on there. And he said there wasn't enough room on there. He had to put his name on there too. But when you look at this belt, this is a 7-plate belt. And I've always thought that this design was wasted on a secondary championship. This is in my top 5 of the nicest wrestling belts ever made. I love this belt so much.
Do you have the North American?
Calm down.
Well, I was just meaning in comparison. I wanted to see both of them. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I just wanted to see, like you said.
Yeah, that's the big side plates on that.
Oh yeah, this thing's a monster.
I'm
getting a hernia trying to hold both of them.
I agree with you, Dave. I think that one that you got right there is a very nice looking belt.
But this one, and since we're having show and tell, I'll flip it over and show you.
He's about to knock his internet out with his belt.
I know.
The headphone. So I've got. Trying to move my hand.
We see Nikita Koloff.
There's Nikita Koloff.
Love it.
With 2 Corinthians 5:10 on there. And then there's Terry Taylor on the other side. But in the middle, the franchise, Shane Douglas put on there one from Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert in UWF, 1986. He gave me my first, in parentheses, break in the wrestling game.
Oh, cool.
Wow. That's pretty cool. That's really neat.
The Shane Douglas autograph was already on there when I got it. Now he's seen it. He's seen it because I've taken a picture with him with the belt. But he knew that he signed it because the guy that I got it from, he went to his house and he actually wrote that on the back of it. So
that is a nice belt.
Because I got this belt from Conrad. So anyway, that's the UWF TV belt. And they introduced it, and Buzz Sawyer immediately says, I'll defend it against anybody.
Hello.
Where'd he go? Have we
I
lost?
don't know. There we go.
He is.
Oh, no.
There he was. Here he is. There he was. There he is.
I'm back, y'all.
Oh.
And there he goes again.
What in the actual...
Hi, Mark.
There you go.
Well, you know,
our producer's screwing with me. That's what's happening now. She's in there laughing.
I think we could all agree this right here, this NWA Television Heavyweight Wrestling Championship is pretty darn fabulous because we all know who held this that I am adhered to so much. Oh, well, looky here. I got a picture of him holding it.
Saying, don't make me get my closet and get my umpiring belt out to show.
Oh.
But anyway,
since it kept coming to me, I felt like I needed to do something. So,
well, and this belt would eventually be unified with that belt. So,
still prettier. Anyway,
it's almost as pretty as the UWF television belt.
That is a very pretty. You're
beautiful
right.
belt. It's wasted on a secondary design. I think they should have actually used that as the main belt. Reggie did a hell of a job. Thanks for joining us tonight, Mark. It's good to hear from you, man. So that's what we're doing, and so that's set up that Buzz Sawyer is willing to defend the title, and then we cut to the ring with Bill Watts and Dick Slater and Dark Journey and Buzz Sawyer, and Bill Watts points out that Dick Slater's really not a man of his word. He backs up on things that he says. But Buzz Sawyer said he would defend the belt. So he's made a makeshift contract in handwriting, a handwritten document. There's some blanks on it. And Dark Journey saying, you really ought to fill in the blanks. And Dick Slater saying, no, Bill Watts, I trust Bill to fill it in. So then and Bill said, yeah, you can trust me. My word's every bit as good as yours. My word's as good as yours. And so Dark Journey's trying to tell him. And also I'd like to point out earlier in there that Dark Journey pointed out that as long as Slater was the North American heavyweight champion, she was with him. You got the belt that matters. That's why I'm with you. And I'm thinking, well, look at her being a gold digger. I mean, she just pointed out, you got the belt, you got the woman. And so anyway, we're in the ring. Dark Journey's trying to tell him you're making a mistake not filling in the blanks. Slater says it's cool. Bill Watts says Buzz Sawyer's going to defend the championship. It's not going to be the TV championship. It's going to be the North American championship. And he's going to defend it against Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So, and he loses his mind. Referees are holding him back. And he says, you're not going to be at ringside for this. And Buzz Sawyer's really not sweating this at all. Put the belt on me. Buzz Sawyer, I got the impression that it didn't matter who they said. Buzz Sawyer's down to fight. Mm-hmm. And you hear bad things about Buzz Sawyer, but Buzz Sawyer was a tremendous performer. And everywhere that he ever went. I mean, him and Tommy Rich had some tremendous feuds. You're going to see in this match, if you watch this episode, that he's going tooth and nail with Duggan. And this is pre 2x4. Ho, Duggan. I mean, this was Duggan when he was,
He may have been an okay performer, but he was also a tremendous asshole.
Well,
Buzz Sawyer was. So.
But
if we're going to crap on Hannibal, we're going to have to crap on Buzz Sawyer too.
Yeah, but Hannibal's not an incredible performer.
Well, that's true.
Okay. And anyway, this is the North American belt. They have not switched to the UWF Heavyweight Championship yet. So, but I felt like I'd get this down off the wall and it'd make an appearance tonight. This thing is huge. It's as big as I am. I mean, I could use this thing as a bulletproof vest.
It's a nice belt too. I mean, those are I think they're both very well designed, nice belts. I like them.
And you can't tell me that Bill Watts didn't want to have I think that this North American belt is probably the inspiration for Jim Crockett to order the big gold. Because the AWA had the inmate belt, which was a huge championship. And now all of a sudden you got Ric Flair coming down to Mid-South to go around the loop defending the NWA title. And the North American title is dwarfing the NWA title.
Sure.
At this point. And even at this point, Hulk Hogan had won the Big Green, which was a big title. Mm-hmm. So I think that, Crockett or Dusty or one of them was thinking, we need a bigger belt. That may have been the inspiration.
I'm gonna need a bigger knife.
Yeah.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Anyway, and I've got a UWF belt, and if we talk about after they have a tournament for it, I'll whip it out.
Promise.
So I will. I'm not bashful. Roll Tide. Look at Amy. She's just, we have totally corrupted Amy. She's drinking beer.
I love to make Justin laugh. He makes me laugh so much. I don't have, he really does. And when I can,
and she loves Dick Slater. She told me, she goes, this is the best Dick.
Yeah, dirty Dick.
She's I love Dick.
Amy, I resisted.
Amy loves Dick.
I wanted to tell a really bad joke on Dave just a minute ago when he wanted to use that belt as a bulletproof vest. But I withheld. I was going to say if he could have used it as a turban, maybe he would have.
Glad you withheld on that.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, we're off the rails. So
Yes.
anyway, where
It's
was I?
good
Oh,
to have
yeah,
a
Amy.
little joke.
Amy's a huge fan of Dick, but he didn't win tonight.
All of them too.
Yeah.
All that are out there. Murdoch, Slater.
So
Just
now we've
saying.
we're into the match, and what I really took out, the first thing I got out of this match is that Duggan's giving Sawyer these punches, and then he finally gives him one good one, and the way that Sawyer dove backwards through the ropes to the floor, and I mean they didn't have that much room.
No.
Between the ropes and the barrier, and it was like a metal barricade. I mean, because you
think
weren't doing dives in UWF,
right? Do you think that had to be a complete accident, like that it went out? I mean, like sometimes
no, Buzz Sawyer was bumping like that for years.
That particular, like I guess
saw him bump like that in world class.
Really? Oh
yes.
Lord. Okay.
I mean, doing that jumping and going through the ropes. I've seen him do that before.
I mean, there's a reason why guys paid to go to his wrestling school, because they seen him work. He can wrestle, and then he just didn't teach them the damn thing.
You just got to know, got to feel it
in the ring. Buzz Sawyer was an incredible performer.
I just was like, my God, he must have. The velocity he went out of the ring with like that. But
then we're coming up to the end of the match, and he goes to because eventually he cuts him off. They come back from commercial, and he's done cut him off, and because you don't get to see what's going on during the commercial. It's like the tape machines are rolling. If something happens in the commercials, we'll play it back. They come back. He's cut him off, and he's really working on the ribs. They're telling us the psychology in this match was tremendous. But then they worked up to the where Sawyer got on the top rope, and you even hear, I can't remember if it was JR or Joel Watts. If he gets disqualified, he keeps the title. Well, he dives, but he missed. So he didn't get disqualified for jumping off the top rope. Maybe you could argue that he should have been disqualified as soon as he jumped off the top rope, because that was a rule. You didn't jump off the top rope. Mm-hmm. But he missed him.
That's absolutely
Bam gets hit with
the Watts territory.
He gets hit. 1, 2, 3. We have a new champion, North American. So they've screwed Dick Slater out of the North American title. But Buzz Sawyer's still the television champion at this point. And then they
I was kind of surprised the only thing I was surprised with this match, like I knew Duggan was going to go over. I remember him being the champion down there. But I was surprised on how Duggan looked. I thought he would be a little more ripped, almost like JYD down there. And he was still kind of in a pudgier phase. And I think he got more ripped when he went to WWE. I expected it to be the opposite.
I've never thought of Hacksaw Jim Duggan and ripped in the same sentence before.
Well, I don't mean ripped.
He just looked like a big old ex-football player to me.
A little more muscly, I guess.
Barrel-chested, right?
I just thought he looked like,
You're thinking maybe because he was younger, like you would think that, like
when JYD was down there, JYD looked really good, and I kind of expected Hacksaw to look a little bit like that, and he didn't. But that doesn't matter. I enjoyed the match. I thought it was good stuff. Hacksaw, you can just tell his charisma in the ring, and there's no wonder he got over so big in New York.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, then we move on to the tag team. Then they're still wearing the Mid-South tag team titles, but they even pointed out this is for the UWF Tag Team Championship. We just haven't had a chance to get new belts yet.
Right.
They even said that. You had the Sheepherders introducing Jack Victory. We didn't know Jack Victory had any affiliation with the Sheepherders. He's not from New Zealand, but he's their flag bearer.
Should we explain who Jack Victory is to people that are listening and don't know who that is?
Jack Victory, to me, was in a tag team with Hollywood John Tatum in World Class. I think Jack Victory later went on to be a big deal in ECW for a while. I don't know. Did Jack Victory ever do anything with Johnny Laurinaitis?
That's what I was thinking, but now that I
don't think so. I can't. It may have, but I thought Jack Victory's biggest run before ECW was with the Sheepherders as their flag bearer. So anyway, they introduced him, said he's never been out there with them before. They're waving the New Zealand flag. All of a sudden, Born in the USA hits. They introduced the Mid-South Tag Team Champions, Dr. Death Steve Williams, and Ted DiBiase, who actually dressed alike. They wore the white trunks. I mean, they coordinated as a tag team, which, you know, I that stood out to me. But they came out to Born in the USA because everybody knows that New Zealand is our hated enemies.
Exactly.
It kind of
But-
reminded me a lot of the gimmick that the tag team in WWE had with IRS and Mike Rotundo and
Barry Windham. Yes,
Barry
Team
Windham.
USA in '85. They came out to Born in the USA also.
Yes.
At WrestleMania. The original WrestleMania. But they came out, and of course, we're still using unlicensed music at this point. And I watched this episode on YouTube, so we got the good music. And the crowd in Oklahoma at the Myriad was one of y'all Google what the capacity of the Myriad in Oklahoma was, because that was a packed house and they were hot and they were all chanting USA. And for you kids that don't know who the Sheepherders are, they're the bushwhackers before they started licking kids and doing Tommy Kangaroo down and all that other crap. They were a vicious tag team. They were blood and guts brawlers. And when they went to WWE and became the Bushwhackers, who Cassio Kid says is his favorite tag team. I mean, they
were over with me as a kid too. I've got two sets of their toys right up here behind.
But for me to go from the Sheepherders to the Bushwhackers, to me it was just Vince screwing somebody else up. Like, what in the hell is it? Because I hated the Sheepherders when I got Southwest Championship Wrestling. Because it was Luke Miller.
In Vince's defense, he's doing the right thing here, Dave, because he knows there's going to be guys down there like you that know him, but he's playing to the whole country like me, and I don't have a damn clue.
And he's also marketing to kids, and you have the action figures. There weren't Sheepherder action figures.
Right.
And you have the music, the little, you know, whatever that little get up music was.
What was over with my brother wasn't over with me.
I was a 4 or 5 year old kid at the time. Conrad was like 8. They were over with us as the Bushwhackers, you know.
I bet.
Mark Buffalo feels the same way. I mean, but that's what we grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm just saying, the Sheepherders, I saw them in the barbed wire match with the Fantastics. When I think barbed wire matches, I'm not thinking the Fantastics. So, I mean, I thought the Fantastics were outgunned against the Sheepherders in that situation. But I had seen the original Sheepherders on Southwest Championship Wrestling, and they had, his name was Jonathan. It's escaping me, but it's a third Sheepherder, Jonathan Boyd.
Right.
And they were a 3-man badass operation. I mean, they were, so that, I mean, I had them from, that's my point of reference to now knowing that these guys, they're hardcore. They were hardcore before hardcore.
And you know what? I wonder a piece of them coming in as baby faces for Vince too. I think at the time he had Demolition as his head heel tag team, and maybe he didn't think there was room for him to try and compete with Demolition. So he thought, no, why not bring him in as a?
Well, that act, he didn't have a heel act. He didn't have that act in WWF. I mean,
right? I know.
He didn't amp his heels up. So if he'd have neutered them as heels.
That's what I mean. They wouldn't have worked because he's not going to let them do the stuff on TV.
I'm not disputing the genius that is the Bushwhackers.
Yeah.
In hindsight, at the time I hated it, but I hated everything. I mean, King Harley Race made me throw up a little bit in my mouth. I mean, that's not Harley Race. You know, just what he would do when he would Dusty with polka dots. You know, Terry Taylor being the Red Rooster. You know, I didn't like that stuff. I mean,
I get that 100%. I just think from Vince's point of view, he knew that the blood and guts of the Sheepherders was not going to happen on TV. So he's like, well, goddamn, pal, what else can we do?
And he came, and it was brilliant when you, in hindsight. So, I mean, I'm just saying at the time, you know, 16, 17, 18-year-old, 20-year-old Dave wasn't digging. I didn't dig. Vince McMahon will always be my wrestling nemesis.
Mm-hmm.
He's always the villain in my wrestling story.
Yeah, he didn't become mine until 1997, but I feel you.
But when we talk about how and we'll talk about it later in the, he takes somebody and he change them. But later on in the story, later on in this episode, I'm gonna point out somebody that he didn't change, that he just, but he amped it up another notch. So anyway, we go into this tag match, beautiful tag match. I mean, Doc was, you believe that these guys were in a fight, man. God, how vicious was Dr. Death? And DiBiase was DiBiase, man. DiBiase, Ted DiBiase is probably one of the greatest in-ring wrestlers as far as wrestling.
Okay, this is another person. When I saw his physical look here, I was like, oh, this is the Ted that I know that was getting ready to go to WWE. Because I've seen some, pictures of him as a young baby face and stuff, and he's a little skinnier and scrawnier. And now this Ted DiBiase on this show looks like the guy that you're going to see in the black tights here in a year or so up north. And he works that way too.
And I've told Ted DiBiase before that black tights, black glove Ted DiBiase, loaded glove Ted DiBiase is my favorite Ted DiBiase.
Mm-hmm.
So
Andrew Hermes is bringing breaking news to the show. He's watching, I guess, AEW, and he says Jungle Boy is wearing pants. He now has heat with me, and I've never agreed with Andrew more. I agree with that statement 100%. He shouldn't be wearing no pants.
He shouldn't be on TV. We need a AEW light heavyweight championship.
You could be the referee for it. Light heavyweight with a light heavyweight.
No, I can't referee in AEW because I count when you're on the apron.
Oh.
Well, make sure you try to involve yourself in every scene like Aubrey does when she's in there. So.
Hey, she knows where the camera is, and I'm not mad at her for it. Mm-hmm. Aubrey Edwards catches a lot of flack, but Aubrey Edwards is a tremendous referee. She knows where the camera is. She does love the camera, but she's a tremendous referee. She's probably the best referee they got. And I don't mean that in a bad way. That's not saying much. I'm just saying.
Is that a high bar to jump?
No, I'm just saying. She's a good referee. I'm not shitting on her referee ability, and I'm not kind of poking fun at her, but she knows where the camera is. And if there was a camera on me more, I'd probably find it too.
Dave, the only thing I can't take is when there's a move going on or something right in front of her and she's going like this behind it. I'm like, are you swimming backwards? Or are you?
Yeah, I sell moves, but I don't sell them like that because it's important to me that, if something big happens in the ring, the referee should sell it. The one that just stands there and they're just like,
right. You got to give a little pop with it or whatever. I get that. Yeah. I'm
going to drop down. I'm going to check if it's that big of a move. I'm going to drop down. I'm going to check on the guy that took the move. I'm reacting to it. And she reacts to it, but sometimes, but she's on television, so it's that much more. Anyway, look what you started, Andrew Hermes.
He's running this show even when he's not on it.
Yeah, he did turn on JYD. He did. DiBiase.
Yeah, that was a hot feud. That was one of the best feuds they had down there, right?
Oh, yeah, it was a big deal. It was a big deal. I heard a story one time though that who told the story that he was riding with Ted DiBiase. He was riding with Ted DiBiase, and they got out of the car at an arena, and the fans were there in the back giving him a hard time, and he walked over and just knocked the shit out of one of them. But that was just the hills in Mid-South.
So, he better have had the black glove on when he did it.
Anyway, so the match goes on, shenanigans ensue. Jack Victory distracting Doc, and one of the sheepherders jumps off the top rope. One of the sheepherders jumps off the top rope with a foreign object, and it's from New Zealand, so it's a true foreign object.
It's foreign.
The still flagpole. He's waving a still flagpole, y'all. Had to be still. That's what JR said it was. Anyway, he hits DiBiase, and I'm thinking this is where DiBiase got hurt and was out of the Crockett Cup. They may have sold this injury from this because the Crockett Cup was only a few weeks after this. Mm-hmm. New tag team champions. The UWF tag team champions. So now we still have TV time left though. This was one fall with TV time remaining, and there was still TV time remaining.
Yep.
So coming up next.
Was that Koko Beware?
Yes, my mortal enemy, Koko Ware.
I mean,
Why?
I put,
What did he do to you?
He besmirched my
You don't-
sister's honor.
oh,
Oh.
Justin, you don't remember this?
Oh, I do. Now that, yeah, I
When
did.
he was in Dallas as the PYT Express with Norvell Austin.
Way to bring it
They
up,
got
Justin.
a lot of heat. And if you got a lot of heat in the sportatorium, they take you out the side door because it was only 5 rows from when you left the ring, it was only 5 rows to get out the side door. They're at section D, and I sit in section D because I like to stand up on the 5th row because I could see over everybody's head when they stood up. And if everybody started throwing drinks, there wasn't nothing behind me. I couldn't get hit.
If he ain't in the first row, he's going to have to negotiate where he sits.
Yeah. So I'd always take the 5th row because I wouldn't get hit. But anyway, this particular night, we're on the aisle and they're coming out, and I can't repeat on this podcast. And I've said some pretty vile shit on this podcast, but Koko Ware went way beyond catching heat when he told my sister what he was going to do to her.
Oh, damn.
I mean, with an apparatus that was attached to him.
Yes.
I mean, he really disrespected my sister. And
How old was your sister?
I was 8. I was 20. So she'd been 24.
Okay, good. I was
At
hoping
least
you were
you
going to say she was 7. Like,
No, my sister's 4 years older than me.
Making
But-
sure too.
But I mean,
14.
just that he saw what he was going to do to her. I mean, he crossed the line.
Well, I came here to do the opposite of what Dave is doing, which is shitting on Koko. I came here to praise him, and here's why. I loved his entrance. He danced throughout the whole crowd. Everyone was pumped. To me, this is what the Koko Ware gimmick was supposed to be in WWE, but it never quite got there.
Because they didn't license Morris Day the Bird.
That's true. I mean, it was kind of the same, but I just don't feel like it was quite like what this was. I really enjoyed watching Koko work with the crowd, and like I think his entrance was longer than the match was.
But it was a good entrance.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't like Morris Day and the Bird, I mean, that gets you pumped up. I mean, I'm sitting there and I don't like Koko Ware, and I'm just sitting there like, yeah, the Bird. No,
I think we need 2 things. We need to start a list of things that Dave, if you don't like it, you can go F, because it's McDonald's, it's Morris Day and the Time. So far, we should start a little list going.
No, man, I love Morris Day and the Time. And
Hannibal. That's just a show.
But I mean,
I think we're used to seeing all of that energy from Koko. This is what I put in my notes. Who was surprised that Koko Ware was involved in a squash match and he was not the one being squashed?
He killed that guy.
You know? That's what I'm saying. We're used to seeing all the fanfare and all the high fives and all that. But then
did you hear what his finisher was called?
What?
Dave, what was his finisher called?
I don't. It was a drop kick off the top rope.
It was a drop kick off the top rope.
Went off top rope, was off the middle rope, wasn't it?
I don't know if the announcer, if Jim Ross was just saying this, but when he hit it, they said, "There's the coup de grace."
Oh.
So I don't know if that was the actual name or if he was just.
No, he was just being fancy for his finish.
Okay.
But that missile drop kick was, I mean, he nailed.
He was vicious.
I think Koko took liberties on that.
Oh.
But he was the Birdman. That's the thing, is they announced him as the Birdman, Koko Ware.
Right.
So Vince didn't change that. He just gave him a bird to carry because he thought he was a pirate or something.
And I think they called him Koko Beware because I wrote.
They changed it to Koko Beware in WWF.
Yeah, it was Koko Ware down there.
Hey Ben, but I thought okay, they probably did.
So
I might have just hearing
the
it.
only different thing he did with it was give him a different song, put a bird on him, and give him more flamboyant, colorful colors. That was about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And not let him be a badass. Let him be the one getting squashed or being
Who was it that Koko beat up in the hotel room or whatever that one time?
That was a office guy from WWF.
Oh yeah, because they said the N-word or something.
He said the N-word and he got his ass whooped.
That's right. I couldn't remember what that story was. It was floating around in the back of my head. I'm like, what is that story?
Why does Ben care, Terry? He's from Australia.
Oh. You would think that Ben probably is a big fan of the Sheepherders. I never thought about that.
It's from
Ben is-
Canada.
Let's ask Ben if he's more for the sheepherders or the bushwhackers.
There's the question.
Which side of the coin did you like? So Koko killed that son of a bitch though.
Yeah, that was. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed seeing Koko out there, and the fans were loving it.
And he was a big boy.
But we still had 4 minutes left, so we brought out Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, who I want to point out that the referee earlier in the night was Tommy Gilbert. But that's Eddie's daddy.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy Gilbert used to be a hell of a wrestler himself. So Eddie Gilbert presenting Taurus Bulba against Chavo Guerrero. Chavo Classic, kids, not Chavo Jr. There ain't no Pepe out here. This is Chavo. This is Chavo Guerrero.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben preferred the Sheepherders. You're a good man, Ben. I love you. Anyway, Chavo, they pointed out that Taurus hadn't been pinned, even though my results said that he did lose 2 nights earlier. But they said that Taurus hadn't been pinned yet. But did it look to y'all like that wasn't supposed to be the finish? Because Chavo did that. He did that. Yeah. It was kind of a.
It was kind of a rushed. It almost seemed like, all right, we're going home now. Boom.
It was like a German. It was a weird takeover. But I mean, followed up by a drop. He drop kicked him, and then he came up, he got him, and he did like a takeover where he pinned him. And the referee, I could have swore that Taurus he kicked out before 3. But no, I mean, it was like, and it was flat, like nobody believed that just happened.
Right.
And that's what really got me. Like, was that supposed to happen there?
Wonder if there was any fallout from afterwards, or
I mean, they were out of time.
Follow up anything? I wonder.
I doubt it. No one.
Well,
really
they didn't stick around to raise hands.
True.
They didn't raise hands or show a protest in the ring by it. I mean, they got out of the ring, went to Watts and Jim Ross, and then they teased that the Blade Runners were going to come on. We're going to be on next week.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
And I wonder what those guys went on to do. They look like they had a little something.
And Joe Watts took credit for the production. He's like, I produced that. I can't wait to see it next week.
He probably did.
Yeah,
I know, that is kind of funny.
Oh, he did really good videos. I mean, he did Sharp Dressed Man for the Fantastics, and they actually went and got a car. They actually got a hot rod for that one. If you might be able to find some of those on YouTube because of the music, it's awful hard to get them through without getting a content violation.
Well, I hope we get to do this second episode of the new UWF sometime, so we can see the TV introduction of Sting and the Ultimate Warrior, which we will, as they are teasing here at the end of this episode.
I'd like to know when they transitioned from calling him Flash to Sting. Also, I noticed when I was looking at some of the results that Eddie Gilbert was going to be out there with seconded by Rick Steiner. So they weren't calling him Rick Steiner yet. So that's going to be. I mean, there's some things that are coming up on UWF. I mean, they're going to have a tournament and crown the first champion.
Right.
And for you guys that weren't around, there was a lot of talent that when this company sold to Jim Crockett Promotion became big WCW names. Of course, we know Sting is one of those people, but not talked about a lot. Rick Steiner was a UWF guy who came in the deal to Jim Crockett Promotions. All kinds of people. Jim Cornette.
Mm-hmm. Magnum TA was there too.
Just a treasure trove.
Cornette and the Midnight Express had already gone to Crockett.
Right.
Yeah, because there was a promo. There was a promo on this show for what was coming up for an arena show, and they actually had a tape of Cornette saying, "I've been gone a year."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but they were sending Cornette and the Rock and Roll Express, so we were already starting to get some JCP, and as UWF became a thing, they were starting to incorporate, because of the Crockett Cup, they were mixing some of the talent.
Steve Williams would have been one of those guys as well. Of course, Steve really didn't work out in WCW as well as I thought he would.
Why? He should have had a unification match with Flair.
Yeah,
he should have had a unification, and I think that Jim Ross has blamed Dusty for some of that, and blamed some of the Crockett people for not wanting to give. I mean, they knew that if the UWF stars were coming in, they were going to give up some spots.
Right.
So, but I think it was really, I think it was a travesty that the UWF championship was not unified. Flair should have unified those two belts.
It's so funny in both of these situations about these merging of companies, just like WCW and WWE later on. Everyone's worried about their spot. So it's not like this angle can work because the new guys are just going to get squashed.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to make
Yeah.
yourself look dominant. Yeah, you can't have, someone from the other company coming in and, defend or, beating some of your talent, your top talent or whatever.
Well,
It's
and
a very interesting, situation.
And
at
Terry
times.
Taylor versus Nikita. It's not. I mean, you would expect Nikita to beat Terry Taylor.
Mhm.
So that wasn't so
I
far
expect
fetched.
everyone to beat Terry Taylor.
But you had your tag champions. You could have unified your tag championships if you're going to incorporate them. And Crockett had a ton of belts at the time. So really, in hindsight, they probably should have kept running UWF like UWF.
Right.
Mhm. Well, like I said, they did that for a little bit, but then I don't know why. After a few months, they decided to go ahead and
Oh, you'll
unify
see.
or
You'll see
whatever.
the UWF television become Crockett Light really quick.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Is
UWF
this
becomes Crockett Light really quickly.
was Mid South UWF? Was that really the best place for Doctor Death? Because he didn't have much of a run in WWF after the whole what
He
it
had
what
Well,
he had some good runs in Japan though.
Japan was his
Japan too.
Yeah.
Okay,
Japan was his bread and butter. Him and Gordy were incredibly over in Japan. They were
that
making
is true.
and
Yeah.
and him and
But in
Gordy
the America, probably
and they
Mid
had a
South.
great run in WCW, but
I'd say in America
their
this was
loyalty was to Japan because they were that's where I mean they were Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen level in Japan.
Right. Sure.
in
Well,
America this was his best run, I do believe.
yeah.
For sure.
Because he just didn't do well at, I don't think, WCW or WWF. I mean, as much as you would expect
Yeah.
someone like that coming in, that physique, that work.
WWF brings in a guy that they know has got some injuries and he's hurt. And what should we do? Let's get him beat up for real. Let's see how that works.
Let's-
Anyway,
Against people we don't really know that you maybe or may not do super well at this.
Yeah.
I've fought before, so let's try that.
we
So,
did watch this episode, as Dave mentioned earlier, on YouTube because we could see listen to all the good music on there. So we want to shout out to Classic Wrestling Stuff on YouTube for providing the video. Right, Dave?
Yes. Thank you for posting that content.
All right, guys. I think that wraps us up. We want to talk about anything before we jump out of here?
we want to talk about, well, a couple things. We got Rodney McNeil. Hi. He said hi, guys. We will make sure that we say hi to him. Do we want to talk about who our guest next week's going to be?
Go ahead and tell us about our guest next week, Amy.
Okay. So I want to pull this up so I don't want to misspeak. That would be terrible. So next week, we have Jared Rollins, who is coming on. And he is a co-promoter for the Tri-State Wrestling Association. And it is in the Cincinnati tri-state area. And so I don't know who his co-promoter is, but he is someone who we all got to know a little bit. And the fact that he is a promoter and they're working on getting their promotion going, and they could be seen on the Premier Streaming Network. We want to bring him on because, again, we love talking to people about independent wrestling. We love people who have their own promotions. Josh Nell coming on with us and with BIW, listening to what they've got going on and kind of those backseat stories about things they have to do for their promotion and how all that works. I'm really excited to have someone that is kind of close to you and me, Justin. I mean,
Yeah.
They
Excited to
have
a fellow Cincinnati boy on here with us next week.
exactly. I do know they have a show, and I'm sure he will tell us more about it. They do have a show coming up in August 12th, and that is in Versailles, Indiana. So, like I said, would love, again, we want to use this platform. We love wrestling. We love all kinds. Obviously, we're talking about the UWF. We talk about Dark Side of the Ring. We talked about Money in the Bank when it happened. We love all kinds. And so this is just going to be another way to kind of learn about another little niche that's going on out there and see who they have. And I think it'll be really fun to talk to him. But he
And
will
we
be our
should-
guest next week. I'm sorry.
And in
Yeah,
2 weeks,
Go ahead.
Oh, yes.
and in 2 weeks, to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of Ric Flair's last match, we'll be joined by the Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer, newly inducted Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer, promoter for Ric Flair's last match, the Podfather, my close personal friend, Conrad Thompson, will be here, and we're going to talk about all things Ric Flair's last match.
Yeah, so the next 2 weeks are going to be super fun. I'm very excited for both of them. It's always great when we have guests in here. It's going to be great to catch up with Conrad. It's going to be great to talk about some independent wrestling. And like I said, if you guys don't know, we should put them over. Premier Streaming Network does a great job of streaming a lot of independent wrestling events. So I think it's only about $10 a month. If you got some cash to spare, if you like to watch, $5 a month.
I think it's $4.99. Yeah.
Okay. So if you like that type of stuff, check out Premier Streaming Network. You'll also find our friend Efren on there with the game event. So
In 2 weeks, ask him yourself.
all right, guys. Are we out of here?
Hey, it's also
Yes.
if you're doing a commercial for Premier Streaming Network, don't leave out the game event hosted by Efren.
I mentioned it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Big Red knocked me off my game there. And
That's right. We also want
I
to
got
make
fully
sure,
engulfed and giving him the finger.
while we're talking about promoting, we want to promote ourselves. We have the YouTube channel out there. We would love for you all to go there, subscribe to our YouTube
Please.
channel, give us a 5-star review, or tell us if there's something you think we need to do different. The more people that subscribe and is seen, the more people that we can all hang out with. You all in the audience have been fabulous. We love your questions and your comments while we're talking about stuff. You make us think about things. Mark coming in actually have been in that area and have, could give us firsthand. He did not like it when the name changed. He was there. We love that kind of stuff. And so the more the merrier, I think. Don't y'all?
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for joining us again in the chat. We are join you next week again. We will be talking some independent wrestling, and for Pondwater, Dave Miller, for the great First Lady of the Arn Anderson Fan Club, Amy Vaughn, for Teppy Miller back there producing. My name is Justin Davis. Please take care of yourself and each other. So long, everyone.